You are Max, watching Free Speech TV in Fullerton, California.
Yes,
hey, Max,
I
what's
am.
on your mind?
How are you today?
I'm great, but I'll get better. How about you, Max?
Yeah, I am feeling better because I listen to you right now because you've been saying stuff that I've been saying for 40 years about media and about immigration, and you were talking about Godwin's law, and I'm a cartoonist, and I listened to the speech. I was livid all day. I did three cartoons and put them on Twitter, and I applied. I did go to the effort of to the trouble of looking up old posters of Hitler and quotes, and I placed them in the cartoon. And you'll be surprised how many people got to me and they said, "Oh, you don't understand. The Jews were legal. They were, and the Mexicans aren't." So they were almost justifying the fact that we should deport all these people and treat them as if they were, as if all of them were criminals,
Right.
and just kind of throw them away, throw them aside. And I said, we don't do that as a country. What do you want? We just don't do that. So I think now is the time to apply Godwin's law. I don't think we should be afraid of that.
To ignore Godwin's law. Yeah.
Yeah, we should ignore it. Yeah, we shouldn't ignore it because I think
Because Godwin's law is whoever mentions Hitler first loses the argument, and that might have been true in the past. I just think that there are too many friggin' parallels.
I know. I'm a Mexican, and I've always been told by Jewish people, let us not forget. This is a big red flag. I do not forget.
Yeah.
I do not want America to be a country where we deport people, we throw people away.
Well, in Hitler's sales pitch, and I lived in Germany for a year. I knew Nazis, actually. Unrepentant Nazis, as well as a lot of, the vast majority of the people I knew were just absolutely horrified by what happened. But the sales pitch that the Nazis put forward in the early 30s was that the Jews were a people apart. That was I forget how it's said in German, but a people apart. That they lived in their own communities, that they dressed differently, that they spoke differently. They spoke Yiddish rather than German, which is kind of a hodgepodge mixture of. It's sort of like down in Louisiana where it's Creole, sort of half French, half English. Yiddish is half Hebrew, half German, or not half and half. It's actually more German. But that was his sales pitch. These people aren't actually Germans, and so therefore we should get rid of them. And Donald Trump, even when yes, he talks about quote illegal immigrants. But he has also on a number of occasions, and certainly his surrogates and his buddies talk about things like we're losing our cultural identity, and why are we having Cinco de Mayo celebrations, and why are people flying the Mexican flag on May 5th, and this kind of stuff. And it's that people apart pitch. And if those people are visibly different from the white European norm, and Hispanics are in this country, as many Jews were in Europe, then this A goes to B, B goes to C, C goes to D, and it's like from Milton Mayer's book. He pointed out, if you knew that when you got to D, when A went to B, if you knew that B was going to lead to D, then you would have stopped it. But you didn't know. So you get these incremental steps, step by step, until pretty soon it's like everything has changed around you. I wish I had a printout of Milton Mayer's book. I've done it many times on this show, where he went back and he talked to these Nazis, or people who had lived through Hitler's Germany and just didn't do anything. They just, normal people who held jobs all through the whole thing, through the war and everything. And this one guy said, please believe me, it happens incrementally, gradually, and everything, all these emergency measures were said to be for reasonable purposes. And he said, one day it's like the corn growing. One day it's over your head and you don't realize it. And that's what I see happening. Max, this is, thank you, Shano, for printing this out. Shane grabbed They Thought They Were Free, is the book by Milton Mayer. The subtitle is The Germans, 1933 to 1945. Milton Mayer was a reporter for the Chicago Sun, as I recall, and he went over to Germany and spent a fair amount of time there talking to these various people. And one of them, this fellow was a member of the, he was a professor, a college professor, and he just taught college all through the war, right? And not politics or anything like that. He says, to live in this process is absolutely not to be able to notice it. Please try to believe me. Unless one has a much greater degree of political awareness, acuity, than most of us ever had the occasion to develop. Each step was so small, so inconsequential, so well explained for, or on occasion regretted, that unless one were detached from the whole process from the beginning, unless one understood what the whole thing was in principle, but all these little measures that no patriotic German could resent must someday lead to, one no more saw it developing from day to day than a farmer in his field sees the corn growing, and one day it is over his head. How is this to be avoided among ordinary men, even highly educated ordinary men? Frankly, I do not know. I do not see, even now, many times since it happened, I have pondered that pair of great maxims, principus obsta and finem respis, resist the beginnings and consider the end. But one must foresee the end in order to resist or even see the beginnings. One must foresee the end clearly and certainly. And how is this to be done by ordinary men or even extraordinary men? Things might have, and everyone counts on that might. Your little men, your Nazi friends, we're not against national socialism in principle. Men like me are the great offenders not because we knew better, and that would be too much to say, but because we sensed better. Pastor Niemöller spoke for the thousands and thousands of men like me when he spoke too modestly of himself and said that when the Nazis attacked the communists, he was a little uneasy, but after all, he was not a communist, and so he did nothing. And then he attacked the socialists, and he was a little uneasier, but still he was not a socialist, and he did nothing. And then the schools, the press, the Jews, and so on, and he was still always uneasier, but still he did nothing. And then they attacked the church, and he was a churchman, and he did something, but then it was too late. You see, one doesn't exactly, I'm still reading from Milton Mayer's book, They Thought They Were Free. Brilliant book. I mean, if you want to understand World War II and the rise of the Nazis, read this book. He said, you see, one doesn't exactly see where or how to move. Believe me, this is true. Each act, each occasion is worse than the last, but only a little worse. You wait for the next and the next. You wait for one great shocking occasion, thinking that others, when the shock comes, will join with you in resisting somehow. You don't want to act or even talk alone. You don't want to go out of your way to make trouble. Why not? Well, you're not in the habit of doing it. It's not just fear of standing alone that restrains you. It's genuine uncertainty. And people say you're an alarmist. Remarkable.